So here's Amy. Amy loves coffee. She needs her coffee in the morning. Without coffee, she just doesn't work. She can't write a single line of code. And she does it the old-fashioned way. She creates or makes her coffee the old-fashioned way, getting the beans. She grinds her beans and then does all of the magic that needs to happen whenever you want to make yourself a coffee, right? Now this image is created with DALL-E 3, so you can see there are a lot of things that don't make sense, like so many different coffee aspects in here. She already has coffee, but why is she making coffee? Whatever. So Amy has this problem without coffee that she just can't concentrate and it just doesn't work, right? But then, luckily enough, we have a machine that, well, that's not Amy. That's Amy. Well, there she is. So her name is Cafe, whatever. And she's the developer who just loves to press this button on a coffee machine to make some coffee, right? And the thing that happens when she clicks on that button is that a function is executed. And this function then does all of the work for her. So she doesn't have to grind the beans anymore. She doesn't have to do any of that stuff. She just has to take her coffee and go. So here again, it's just beautiful. She already has a cup in her hand and there's like already a bunch of coffee already in there and she's still pushing the button. So I just love ChatGPT with its magic when it comes to creating images with DALL-E 3, which just came out like a few days ago. So I'm super happy to have it and be able to use it. So anyways, now we fixed the big problem that our friend Amy, the developer, who uses this function make coffee to make coffee. All right, so let's make that function ourselves. Let's build it ourselves. And therefore, I'm inside of my basics KT file that we used in the last videos. So yesterday, basically. And let's go ahead and create our own function. And we already see how the function should be structured. So basically, our main function is the first function that we came in contact with, and now we can create our own functions after the fact. So let's go ahead and build our function the same manner. So I would recommend you pause the video and create a function called make coffee. Okay, pause the video, try it yourself. Okay, I hope you paused the video. So how you would do it is you use the keyword fun, then you use the first word make, and the second word, and that's a convention, a naming convention, you write with a capital letter. So the naming convention about how to write function names is different in every single programming language, basically. So for example, in C#, where I code most of the time, it's with a capital letter straight from the get-go, but not in Kotlin. And it's also that depending on where you work and what company you work for and so forth, the naming convention might be different. So you'll need to check out what the naming convention of functions, of variables, of classes, of interfaces and so forth is going to be at that company. And then you can just go ahead and follow along. Okay, so we have this fun keyword, then the name of the function, and then we have these brackets again, these rounded brackets, and the rounded brackets are there so that we can pass information into those rounded brackets. And we will see how that works in the next few videos. All right. And then there is a return type, which in this case, we don't have a return type. So this is just not returning anything, this function, and we will see how to add return types also. But then we have these curly brackets and they basically indicate that whatever is inside those curly brackets will be executed as code whenever make coffee, this method or this function, is going to be called. So how do we call a function? How do we execute and run a function? Well, we can do that by, in our case, calling it from our main function. So how do we call a function? We enter the name of the function and then we use those rounded brackets again. And this allows us to call the function. So here we define function and here we call function. Okay. So here we call the function, obviously. All right. And now if we do that, if we run our code now, nothing will happen because our function make coffee will obviously be executed, but it doesn't do anything. There's no code to be run. So let's change that by actually printing something onto the console. And in this case, how do we make coffee? Let's just keep it simple, grind beans, for example. We could go like even further. We could even say buy beans Or we could go even further and say something like, I don't know, plant beans and stuff. So yeah, grind beans, then yeah, put water over, or like add water, then, or like heat up water probably, right? Println heat water to 90 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. And then println add water, push hot water through the grinded beans or something like that. Yeah, I'm not a specialist at how coffee is made inside of these machines, but let's just imagine that's how it works, right? So let's go ahead and execute our code now. What it will do is it will give us these 5 print line statements, or it will execute these 5 lines and will display them onto our console. So let's rerun it. And we can see we have buy beans, we have grind beans, we have heat water, add water, push hot water through the grinded beans. And then we have our coffee. So instead of having to do all of that stuff manually, now it's just done by calling this function. So we have set it up once and now we can reuse it. So we did call the function make coffee here. You now might wonder, why the heck would I go ahead and not just put these print line statements directly into the main function? Well, the thing is, now we can use those exact things again and again. So those print line statements, we can have them multiple times now. So we can rerun this code and like basically reuse our function. And you can see now we're buying beans, we're grinding beans, we're heating water, we're adding water, and it's happening all over and over and over again. So we can call functions multiple times, and we can even go later on and use this make coffee function at other points. So suddenly we have built how this make coffee function works, and we can reuse it at all kinds of areas, right? So that's really the cool thing about functions. And that is the first function that we created. In the next video, we're going to see how we can add spice to the function, how we can basically add something into the function so that it influences how this function will be executed. All right, so see you there.